Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is engineer Kinzanu Mangi, and a question was asked today uh, to clear and concise and to differentiate between the contract and the tender. Okay, so I thought to make a lecture on it to help out understand that what is tender and what is contract in the context of civil engineering. Okay, so I'll start with a brief intro about the importance of these two terms, contract and tender, in the civil engineering works. In civil engineering, projects involve large investments, strict timelines, and public safety. To avoid disputes, delays, and financial losses, there must be clear procedures and legal agreements. Tendering and contracting are important because they ensure fair competition among contractors, help the client get the best value, quality plus cost, define the responsibilities of both client and contractor, provide a legal framework to settle disputes, guarantee that the project is completed as per specifications, time, and budget. Now, what is the role of tender in civil engineering and what is the role of contract in civil engineering? A tender is the any invitation process where contractors are asked to submit bids for construction work. It provides transparency and allows the client to choose the most suitable contractor based on cost, experience, and technical capability. Whereas contract in civil engineer is the legal bidding agreement signed between client and contractor after tender is accepted. It specifies the scope of the work, pay, payment terms, completion period, penalties, and dispute resolutions mechanism. So, in short, tendering is the selection stage who will do the work, and contract is the agreement stage on what terms the work will be done. Now, I'll define the con- contract and the uh, tender both separately along with their different types. Let's start with the contracts. Okay, now how to define properly a contract? Contract is an agreement enforceable by law, is a contract. Every promise and every set of promises forming the consideration for the each other is an agreement. Okay, the agreement must create legal obligations between the parties is an enforceable. So the contract is an undertaking by a firm or a person to do any work under certain terms and conditions. Okay. Now, who is the contractor? A contractor is a person or a firm who undertakes any type of the contract. And arranging contractor. Contract for a work is arranged by inviting sealed tenders by issuing tender notice. There are two broad categories. The first category is price given in advance contracts, means price based contracts. Next category is the cost reimbursement contracts, which is the cost based contracts. So there are different types of contracts such as lump sum contract, lump sum and schedule contracts or item rate contracts, labor contracts, target contracts, materials supply contract, piecework agreement, and there is also the last but not least cost reimbursement contracts, which is subdivided into the cost plus fixed fee contract, cost plus percentage contract, cost plus fluctuating fee contract, and lastly percentage rate contract. Now let's define one by one. So let's start with the lump sum contract. Sometimes lump sum contract is also called as Drawings or specifications contract. The contractor agrees to perform a stipulated job of work in exchange for a fixed sum of money. Stipulated means prescribed, staged, produced at some stage or a level. Okay, to complete it in all respects within a specified time for a fixed amount. Payment may be staged at intervals or time on a completion of milestones. Okay, so deposit of 10% security money is taken by the department. The contractor is responsible for preparing his BOQ, which is the bill of quantities. On completion of the work, no detailed measurements of different items of the work is required. Lower financial risk to employer and higher financial risk to contractor. So this was about the lump sum contract, which is also called as drawings or specifications contract. The contract agrees to perform a stipulated job of a work in exchange for a fixed sum of money. Okay. Next is the lump sum and schedule contract. In this type of contract, the schedule of rate is also provided in the contract agreement. The measurement of extra items only shall have to be taken. The original work is, however, be checked and compared. The contract, however, includes a fixed sum within a fixed time along with the detailed specifications and conditions and the schedule rates. Okay, so this was about it. And now coming towards the third type of contract, that is the schedule contract. The contract undertakes the execution or construction of a work on the item rate basis only. Okay. The payment to the contractor is made by detailed measurement of different items of the works actually done by the contractor. The amount the contractor receives depends upon the number of items of work done. The contract agreement includes quantities, rates, and amount of various items of work. It also includes the 10% security money, penalties, etc. Item rate contract may also be a percentage above or below the printed schedule of rates of the department. Used for repair and maintenance works or under conditions of urgency. It is also called as unit price contract. Okay, so this was about schedule contract. Now coming towards the labor contract. All materials for the construction are arranged, supplied at the site of work by the department or owner. The labor contractor engages the labor and gets the work done according to specifications. The contract is on item rate basis for labor portion only. The contract is paid for the quantities of work done on measurement of the different items of a work at a stipulated rate as an agreement. Contractor uses his own tools for working. Plants and machineries are arranged by the department or owner. This system of a contract is not generally adopted in government works but preferably for private sectors. Now the next type of the contract is materials supply contract. In this form of the contract, the contractors have to offer their rates for supply of the required quantity of materials, inclusive of all local taxes, carriage, and delivery charges of the materials to the specified site within the time fixed in the tender. Okay, so the inclusive tax is a tax already included in total, whereas the exclusive tax is a tax written separately from retail price. So this was about material supply contract. Where is the cost plus percentage contract? In this system, contractor is giving certain percentage over the actual cost of the contract or actual cost of the construction is his profit. Okay, so it's defined as the in this system contractor is given certain percentage over the actual cost of the construction is his profit. Contractor arranges materials and labor at his cost and keeps proper amount. He is paid by the department by a profit of say 10% as his profit is agreed upon beforehand. So this was about the cost plus percent contract. Cost plus fixed fee contract. So this is the another type, cost plus fixed fee contract. In this type of contract, the contractor is paid by the owner an agreed lump sum amount over and above the actual cost of the work. Okay. In cost plus fixed fee contract, in this type of the contract, the contractor is paid by the owner an agreed lump sum amount over and above the actual cost of the work. Now comes the cost plus fluctuating fee contract. Okay, in this type of contract, the contractor is paid by the owner the actual cost of construction plus an amount of fee variable inversely variable according to the increase or decrease of the estimated cost agreed first by both parties. So this was about cost plus fluctuating fee contract. The contractor is paid by the owner the actual amount of construction plus additionally an amount of a fee inversely variable according to the increase or decrease of the estimated cost agreed first by both parties. Okay, there are some factors influencing the choice of the type of the contract, and those are the appropriateness for providing an adequate incentive for efficient performance by a contractor. Incentive is something given to encourage to do some work. Okay, so the ability to introduce the changes, the allocations of risk, the start and completion date of the project. So these are the factors that influence the type of the contract. Now, what is the contract document? The contract document includes a title page having a name of a work, contract bond number, etc. Then next comes the index page that includes the context of the agreement with page references. Next comes the tender notice giving brief description of work. Usually 2% of the estimated cost is deposited along with tender. Okay. Then comes the tender form. Tender form is the contract's rates and time of completion and penalty clause. Okay. Bill of quantities. Bill of quantity is giving quantities and rates of each item of work and the total cost of the whole work. Next comes the schedule of issue of the materials, giving list of materials to be issued to the contractor with rates and place of issue. Okay. Seventh is the general specifications, specifying the class and type of the work. Eighth is the detailed specifications, each item of the work and of each material to be used in work. Ninth is the drawings, complete set of drawings like plans, elevations, and site plans or fully dimensioned. Okay, so these things are included in the contract documents. Now, what are the conditions of contracts? There are 9 conditions. There can be more than that, but 9 are the most important conditions of the contract. First is the rates inclusive of materials, labors, etc. Second is the amount of security, money, Third is the time for completion of the work. Fourth is the progress to be maintained. Fifth is the penalty for the bad work. Sixth is the mode of payment. Seventh is the extension of time limit for delay. Eighth is the termination of contract. Ninth is the compensation to labor and minimum wages, etc. So these were the 9 conditions of the contract. So this was all about contract, and let's start about the other, that is the other topic, that is the tender. Tender. What is mean by tender? Tender means an invitation to offer an item or items or work. All public sector purchases contracts over a certain value has to be publicly notified through tender notice, which are advertised through newspapers, trade journals, departmental publications, notice board, or on internet. Okay, so what is the tender notice? The tender notice should in all cases value name and place of the work, first thing. Next is the approximate cost of the work. Third, amount of earnest money and the form in which it can be deposited. Fourth, period of completion. Fifth, place and time where tender documents can be seen. Sixth, place and time where tender documents can be obtained. Seventh, date and time up to which tender document will be sold. Eighth, the amount, if any, to be paid for such documents. Ninth, the place where the date on which and the time when tenders are to be submitted or to be opened. Okay, and 10th, any other information relevant in the tender notice. This is what the tender notice looks like and includes. Now, what is the tender document? The tender document consists of the five major things. Firstly, instructions to tenders and conditions of tender. Okay. Second, regulations for tenders and contracts, GCC and standard specification. GCC is general conditions of contract. Third is the special conditions, if any. Fourth is the tender schedule. Fifth is the form of agreement which the successful tender is required to execute. Note that approximate quantities value item wise should always be indicated in the tender's paper while calling for tender for works. Okay, there are different types of tenders. The tender can be classified based on requirement, category, or procurement type. These are various types of tenders, such as open tender. Second is the limited or closed tender or selective tender. Okay. Third is the single tender. Fourth is the negotiated tender. Fifth is the item rate tender. Sixth is the percentage rate tender. Now let's define these types of the tender one by one, starting with the open tender. An open tender is an agreement where an advertisement in local newspaper or trade journal invites contractor to apply for tender documents. Second is the single tender. Single tendering means sending the tenders to one particular party. Normally, it is either for an item where there is only one supplier. Single tender also sent for the items of proprietary nature. Proprietary means owner having trademark that his process or thing cannot be copied. Okay. So let me define it again for you. What is the single tender? Firstly, what is the proprietary? Proprietary is the owner having trademark that his process or thing cannot be copied. Okay. So now let's define single tender. Single tender means sending the tenders to one particular party. Normally, it is either for an item where there is only one supplier. Single tender also sent for items of proprietary nature. Okay. Now, the third type of the tender is limited or closed tenders. It is also called as selective tenders. In limited tenders, only pre-qualified or known bidders are allowed to participate. Okay. Now, the fourth type of the tender is the negotiated tender. Under negotiated tender method, normally one contractor is approached, and such tender mainly used for specialized work such as lift system or airport project, big level type of the projects. Okay. Fifth is the item rate tender. In this type of tender, the contractors are required to quote the rates for each item mentioned in the price bid. The quantity to be executed is given in the price bid. Okay. Sixth type of the tender. Now comes the percentage rate tender. In this type of tenders, a detailed estimate of the quantity of work to be carried out along with the estimate rates is given in the price bid form. Okay. In this type of tenders, a detailed estimated of quantity of work to be carried out along with the estimate rates is given in the price bid form. The bidders are required to quote the amount in percentage above or below or it per. Okay. So this was about the types of the tenders. Now what is mean by liquidated damages in contracts? Okay. The usual provisions by way of a percentage for each day delay fails to meet the legal principle. Provisions by way of liquidated damages must be based on a genuine pre estimate, and as such, it must be a firm figure for a particular contract and not as a varying percentage of the all contracts. Basically, liquidate damages is damages contract is a fixed or predetermined sum that is required to be paid upon any breach. Okay. Next question rises that what is mean by escalation condition contracts? The present standard from contracts provided if the period of construction more than 6 months and in same or in say more than 12 months. Okay, this is the present standard form contracts provided if the period of construction more than 6 months or in same manner 12 months. Escalation is escalation condition is a provision in contract that calls for the fluctuation of wages, rates, material or any labor. Okay, so this was about the tenders. So thank you for listening.